McGraw-Hill Professional presents The Communication Clinic, 99 Proven Cures for the Most Common Business Mistakes. Written by Barbara Pachter and Denise Cowie. Narrated by Caroline Miller. Introduction. The Communication Clinic is an invaluable guidebook for business people at all levels in the workplace. Not only will it help you to diagnose your areas of concern in business communication, but it will provide you with a prescription for future success. How you communicate with others, whether in person, in writing, or online, has a tremendous impact on your career. It affects every aspect of your working life, no matter how good your specialized skills are in your particular field. Consider this email sent to Barbara Pachter's office. Greetings! I'm doing social media work, and my boss has taken my project from me because of some typos on my post. I don't feel this is right. What is the best way to handle this situation and get my project back? I would any advice you may have. I have only been a professional for 3 years, and I don't always know how to handle situations like this. This entry-level professional is not alone in experiencing the consequences of poor communication, nor in failing to recognize how to deal with the problem. Consider the many professionals who know how to perform their jobs, but find their prospects for advancement diminished because their lack of social skills affects their ability to develop relationships. Think of the legions who fail to express their ideas clearly, whether they are writing an email or making a presentation, so their voices go unheeded and their potential contributions are ignored. And then there are those who don't realize how their words come across to others and may inadvertently create conflicts that harm their careers, and sometimes their companies. Yet many of these individuals, regardless of how many years they have been in the business world, are left wondering why they haven't advanced in their careers. You don't want your communication shortcomings to derail your career before you have a chance to find out what you might have accomplished. The Communication Clinic will allow you to recognize the mistakes that may be holding you back and help you to overcome them. It will equip you with the tools to avoid potential career stumbling blocks, and it will encourage you to become a confident and effective communicator. The guidelines of this book are grounded firmly in the real world of business, based on the author's years of interaction with workers at all levels and in numerous fields, from manufacturing and healthcare to technology and finance. However, where examples are used, all names, job titles, company names, or any other identifying information has been changed. The step-by-step instructions, prescriptions for success, and occasional exercises are helpful for anyone seeking to improve communication skills and professionalism. Topics covered include writing an effective email, crafting a blog post, developing a professional presence, mastering verbal and nonverbal communication, using social media for career success, making a successful presentation, dining for business, being assertive, not aggressive, in person and online, managing conflict, conducting an effective job search. Barbara Pachter has taught communication to tens of thousands of participants in corporate seminars and university classes for many years. She has coached hundreds of professionals on how to present themselves in the workplace and advance in their careers. Denise Cowie has spent her career writing and editing for newspapers, and more recently for magazines and websites. She understands how important it is to communicate clearly. Though this book contains the work of both authors, it is Barbara Pachter's voice that appears on these pages. The Communication Clinic is not a book to read in one sitting. We encourage you to work on a few entries at a time, putting the suggestions into practice and doing the exercises that enforce what you learn. For this reason, we have tried to make each segment as comprehensive as possible, cross-referencing to additional relevant information where necessary. We anticipate that you and others will gradually notice an improvement in your communication skills. We are confident that the effort you make now will pay off handsomely in the future, enriching your career. Part 1. Business Writing in a Digital World. We live and work in an age where technology is constantly changing the way we communicate. One thing, however, hasn't changed, and that is the importance of our words and the need to write them effectively, regardless of whether we are writing an email, sending a text, posting on social media, or even writing a letter. Words have power, and written words have lasting power. When you connect in writing to coworkers, bosses, vendors, customers, colleagues, potential employers, or clients, you reveal a great deal about yourself, and often the company for which you work. And even though the business world is more informal today than in the past, it doesn't mean that you can be sloppy or rude. A poorly written email or post on social media can have disastrous effects on your business relationships and ultimately on your career. Over the last 20 years, I have collected thousands of writing samples from the participants in my corporate seminars and students in my university classes. I also have received hundreds of emails and texts from the readers of my books, people who have seen my blog, and others who have read articles quoting me in the media. Samples from many of these sources are used during my seminars and also in this section, but names, job titles, company names, and locations have been altered. Anything that might reveal who wrote an example has been changed. Follow the suggestions in this section and learn from the examples of others so that your written words convey that you are a professional and an effective communicator. Chapter 1. I didn't know that. The Essentials of Good Business Writing. A sales manager was going on vacation and emailed his customers, giving them the name of a person to contact in his absence. Unfortunately, he gave the wrong email address for that person. He lost some sales as a result. A colleague forces me to work to understand what he writes when he goes on and on in his emails. Sometimes I get it right, other times I don't. I would never want to work with him on a full-time basis. Your job, your work relationships, or your business can suffer if you don't write effectively, as these two comments illustrate. This is true regardless of your position, your industry, or your age and experience. It's important to write professionally, but that can be difficult to do if you are never taught the essentials of business writing, nor realized the consequences of poor writing. Your writing can improve significantly when you understand the importance of these 5 essentials. Good business writing needs to be 1. Clear. Your readers need to understand what you have written the first time they read your comments. People don't want to have to reread a sentence 2 or 3 times to make sure they have read it correctly. If your message is difficult to grasp, whether because of the wording, layout of the email, or amount of detail, your readers will agree with famed American novelist Kurt Vonnegut, who said, "If you can't write clearly, you probably don't think nearly as well as you think you do." 2. Concise. You waste people's time when you include unnecessary words. Write what you need to say in as few words as necessary. 3. Error-free. Anyone can make an error occasionally, but if you consistently make mistakes or have a number of them in any one document, your reputation will suffer and miscommunication can occur. 4. Conversational. If you write in a conversational manner, you are more apt to connect with your reader. Use words that your reader readily understands. Why use a phrase such as "pursuant to our discussion" if you don't use it when speaking with someone? Wouldn't using "as we discussed" be easier for your reader to grasp? 5. Understood by your reader. If you do the first 4 items, this 5th essential is more likely to occur. Your overall meaning will be understood by your reader. That is your ultimate goal, because if you write to people and they don't understand what you are trying to communicate, have you accomplished anything? Now that you know what good business writing requires, it's time to get to work on the details. The suggestions in this section will help you make the 5 essentials part of your writing routine and make your communications more professional. Prescription for success. Remember that email can easily be forwarded to others, which means that email can be the gift that keeps on giving. Your poorly written email may be seen by many others, even if you didn't intend for that to happen. Chapter 2. Getting Started. 5 Ways to Overcome Writer's Block. Every time I sit down at the computer, I realize I have no idea what I'm doing, and my girlfriend has to listen to me whine about how lost and confused and untalented I am. But hopefully, if you do something often enough, you get in the habit, and pretty soon instinct takes over. After I saw the play Clybourne Park, I read the above quote by the playwright Bruce Norris and knew that I had to show it to the participants in my corporate writing classes. Many of them believe that they are the only ones who have difficulty getting started with their writings. Even someone like Norris, who won the 2011 Pulitzer Prize for Drama for this play, has trouble figuring out the right words. Writer's block can affect all types of writers, including business people. Consider these comments from some of the participants in my classes. I sit down to write and nothing comes. It's frustrating. I put off my writing assignments as long as I can. I find other people to do my writing assignments. There are numerous ways to overcome writer's block. Try some of the following. 1. Take a short break. The emphasis here is on short. A change of scenery can clear your head so that when you get back to work, you are more refreshed and open to writing. Take a short walk, talk to a colleague, or do some stretches. Some writers say they like to iron, others do the dishes, but these activities are hard for most of us to do at work. 2. Schedule time to write. Some people think that the only cure for writer's block is to write, and if you schedule the time on your calendar, you are more likely to keep to your plan and write. I know that in some jobs, setting aside a dedicated block of time to write can be difficult, but if you think about your day, you often can arrange some writing time. 3. Control your interruptions. You need an uninterrupted period of time to write. It does you no good to set aside some time for writing if you are going to be distracted time after time by people visiting or by your own compulsion to keep checking email. One woman had to write a monthly report, but it took her a day and a half to write it in the office because she had so many interruptions. Finally, she got permission to work from home one morning each month and found she could write the report in 3 hours. That's a big difference. Also, avoid roaming around the internet. An unknown source said, "Being a good writer is 3% talent, 97% not being distracted by the internet." 4. Set a deadline. Most people, if they have a deadline, will work hard to meet it. Reporters generally don't have the luxury of suffering from writer's block because they have deadlines. Set one for yourself, or have your supervisor set one for you. And when you meet your deadline, go ahead and reward yourself. I have always found chocolate chip cookies a great reward. 5. Cluster your topic. Clustering, also called mind mapping, can help you identify what you know about your topic, which makes getting started easier. Put the subject of your writing assignment, whether it's a sales presentation, a performance appraisal, or an evaluation of new software, in the center of a sheet of paper, and then jot down any thoughts that come to mind about your topic. Do not write full sentences, just keywords. Even if your thoughts seem silly, include them anyway. Place related subjects together. Once you have jotted down all the ideas you can think of, cross out the ones you don't need, and number the rest in the order you will write about them. You will now be ready to start writing. The next chapter, Imperfect Writing for Perfect Results, outlines the steps you should take from here. Prescription for Success. Don't limit the use of clustering to your own writings. It's a great way to harness collective brain power if your team is working on a project, or if you are looking for patterns to common problems. You know those murder boards that are so beloved by the detectives on television shows? They're just another form of clustering. Chapter 3. Imperfect Writing for Perfect Results. I write a couple of sentences and then delete them. Write a few more and delete them. It's a constant, incredibly annoying process. I always have to rewrite. Is there something wrong with me? I was afraid to apply for a new position because it involved a lot of writing. The above comments from participants in my writing seminars illustrate the frustration business people often feel when tackling writing assignments. But it's not just participants in such classes who suffer from fear of writing. Putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard can be daunting for many people. I believe that, to a large degree, the frustration comes from people trying to create a perfect piece of writing the first time they sit down to do an assignment, whether it's a business email or a complicated report. They mistakenly think that what they type should not need any correcting or rewriting. But creating an imperfect piece of writing, a draft, is part of the normal process of writing. Yes, I said normal. Once you have a draft, you can set about revising it. Most people find it easier to correct their writing than to create the exact wording they want the first time they try. Many well-known people, including professional writers, have expressed their understanding of the importance of writing and rewriting. There is no great writing, only great rewriting. Louis Brandeis, Supreme Court Justice. The first draft is a skeleton, just bare bones. The rest of the story comes later with revising. Judy Blume, author. I'm not a very good writer, but I'm an excellent rewriter. James Michener, author. I describe the making of the draft as open writing. This term is easy to remember, as you basically open yourself up and let the words flow. Here are 5 guidelines to help you with open writing. 1. Relax. People have a tendency to get nervous and then agonize over their writing assignments. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect yet. One seminar participant told me that once the pressure was off to create a perfect draft on her first attempt, she was able to write. 2. Write the way you speak. Most of us have no difficulty speaking coherently and clearly. When you write the way you speak, you are writing in a conversational tone, which helps you connect with your reader. Another advantage is that this approach often helps you write quickly. 3. Don't stop writing. No crossing out or backspacing. You don't want to disrupt the flow of your thoughts. If you find yourself going off in the wrong direction, write yourself out of it. You will rearrange your wording later. Computers make it very easy to cut and paste text. This term survives from a time when writers revising on paper literally had to cut up their written phrases and paste them in the order they preferred. We have it so much easier now. 4. Set a time limit. When you sit down to write, allocate a certain amount of time to the task. It doesn't need to be a lot of time. In my classes, my writing assignments are only 5 minutes in duration, but all the participants write between half a page and a page and a half. That's a lot of writing in just a few minutes. After my students have finished their open writing assignments, I tell them that in the past, most of them have stared at a blank computer screen for longer than 5 minutes. Now consider how much they've been able to write in the same time in class. That is when the light bulb goes on for them, and they realize the value of open writing. 5. Don't worry about spelling or grammar, for now. You will correct your grammar and spelling before you hit the send button or mail that document. For now, you just want to write. Once you have followed these 5 steps, keep in mind that you are not done. Let me say that again. You are not done. Now it is time to revise your writing, a task that's addressed in the following chapters. But now you have something to work on instead of a blank screen. Prescription for success. Opening sentences are important, but don't let crafting the perfect one stop you from getting started. Just jot down whatever comes into your head and continue with the rest of the draft. Once you have written a fair amount, go back and review your opening. You'll find you have a much clearer idea of what your opening should say. Chapter 4. Looks count. Make your writings visually appealing. A woman in one of my writing seminars said she sent a meeting announcement to her teammates and used 30-point red type in a bold font to get their attention. She did get their attention, but not in a good way. Her teammates didn't like that her chosen techniques for emphasis, Large type, use of a bright color, exclamation points, and bold font style made her appear to be screaming at them. As a result, her boss sent her to my class. Many people don't think about the visual appearance of their documents and the impact that has on the reader and the readability of the email. The placement of the words on a page or screen, the use of emphasis techniques, and the choice of font, type size, and color often determine whether your documents are read. You don't want your emails to shout at or overwhelm your reader or be difficult to read. The following suggestions should help you to increase the readability of your emails. 1. Avoid paragraphs that are too long. When paragraphs are very long, they become what I call a sheet of black ice, causing readers' eyes to slide right over the text. My general guideline is that you want your paragraphs to be no longer than 9 lines. But that doesn't mean every paragraph should be 9 lines. The key to increasing readability is to vary the length of your paragraphs. You can have paragraphs longer than 9 lines and as short as 1 line. This difference in paragraph lengths adds vitality to your writings. 2. Include a blank line between paragraphs. Your paragraphs can merge into one large block of type if you don't add white space between them. 3. Use an appropriate font size, type, and color. Using either very large or very small type sizes, fancy fonts, or several different colors can make it difficult for people to read your message quickly. Generally, it is best to use 10 or 12-point type and an easy-to-read font, such as Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman, Verdana, or Georgia. Handwriting fonts such as Lucida handwriting are very difficult to read when used as body text. Black and dark blue are the best colors for email type. 4. Avoid writing text in all capital letters. Using all capital letters is the written equivalent of shouting. What's more, it is difficult to read. Don't use all lowercase letters either. That too is hard to read. All caps may be used for headings or the occasional word for emphasis. 5. Avoid long sentences. They are more difficult to read and understand. Studies of business writing suggest that sentences should average about 15 to 17 words in length. But that doesn't mean every sentence should be 16 words. The key to increasing the readability of sentences, just like paragraphs, is to vary their length. This means using some short, some medium, and some long sentences. As you probably know from your own experience, it's difficult to grasp the meaning of a sentence that is too wordy. How many times would you have to read the following sentence to understand its message? To assist us in the development of the annual budget and to permit the inclusion therein of one-time major expenditure items required for the operation of your department, you are requested to submit your anticipated requirements in order of descending priority for the calendar year. 46 words. 6. Use headings to divide your documents into sections. This makes it easy for readers to see quickly what areas you will be discussing. The Gregg Reference Manual, a well-respected style guide, has several pages illustrating different headings. Yet, using headings doesn't have to be complicated. For most business emails, your headings can be either in bold type or in all caps. Bullets, too, can be used to set off sections of a document. The next chapter looks in greater detail at the ways in which bullet points and bulleted lists can make your writings more appealing and easier to read. Question to consider. Question. A colleague told me I was overdoing my use of exclamation marks. I often use 3 or 4 at the end of my sentences to make a point. Am I wrong? Answer. Not if you are writing a comic book. In business writing, exclamation marks can be used occasionally to convey excitement and enthusiasm, but use them sparingly. If you use more than 1 at the end of a sentence, or too many in any one email, it is overwhelming. Don't do it. Prescription for success. Avoid using red pencil or pen to make corrections for yourself or others. It can bring back bad memories from school when teachers used red pencils to correct our writings. As one of my corporate participants recalled, I once had a manager who had the bad habit of using a red pen on my emails. He would print them out and return them to me with red notes all over the place. Although I learned a great deal about my writing, I suffered greatly every time I had to copy him on any email I wrote. Chapter 5. These bullets won't kill your writing. When I started highlighting important points in my emails with bullets, I got better responses. I should have started using them sooner. I got my emails down to one screen when I started using lists. I thought my clients would want me to write more. No one ever asked for more. Many professionals I have coached have made comments about bullets that are similar to those above, with good reason. Using a bulleted list improves the visual appearance of your document and makes it easier for the reader to grasp your concepts. Your key items stand out. Bulleted lists also require less writing, and as a result, many people make fewer mistakes. In addition, email recipients can copy the list, paste it into their replies, and respond to each bullet point individually. As the previous chapter explained, there are numerous ways to improve the layout of your documents. Using a bulleted list is an additional one. But don't shoot yourself in the foot. Use these general guidelines to add bullets successfully. Start the list with an opening statement that ends with a colon. For example, my current position involves a series of tasks, including answering customer calls, providing information about our products, referring callers to additional sites for more information, logging calls for future reference. Make sure your bullet items have parallel structure. Each line should start with the same form. This is frequently a noun or a verb, often ending in the ing form, as in the example above. Capitalize the first word after the bullet. Be consistent with your bullet style. Word processing gives you a number of choices, including circles, squares, triangles, and even circles within circles. Don't become overly creative. Pick one style of bullet and use that throughout your document. Use numbers, not bullets, if there is a sequence of steps to follow. This helps to avoid confusion. When you use numbers for such a sequence, people naturally assume number 1 is the first step. But if you use numbers instead of bullets when the points are not sequential, people may assume number 1 is the most important, which may or may not be the case. Have at least 2, but no more than 8 bullets in a list. If you use too many bullets in any one list, it will be distracting. Too many bulleted lists in any one document will be distracting to the reader also. If the bullet points are sentences, the ending punctuation mark is a period. If the points are questions, end with a question mark. No closing punctuation is needed if the bullet point is a single word or phrase. Use bold type. You can emphasize the first sentence in a bullet point by putting it in boldface type, as we have done for this bulleted list. Prescription for success. Review your writings. Have you been using lists? If not, would adding lists have made it easier for your reader to grasp your concepts? If you have been using bullet points, have you followed the guidelines in this chapter? Chapter 6. Simple words are not for simple people. I wanted to impress my colleagues with my large vocabulary. I want my boss to think I'm smart, so I use big words. My response to comments such as these from participants in my seminars is to quote Albert Einstein, a pretty smart guy, who said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough." Einstein didn't feel a need to prove how intellectually superior he was, and you shouldn't either. You don't impress people by using long, unfamiliar words. You impress them when you write clearly and concisely, using commonly known words that enable your readers to understand your comments quickly. I love this sentence from Steve Jobs' Stanford commencement speech in 2005, a talk that has been viewed more than 8 million times on YouTube. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Would it have had the same appeal if he had said the following? And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuitive cognition. Not likely. I would have had to look up intuitive cognition, which brings up one of...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?